Hello, today is August 10th, 2019. I'm here with Ted Starck, and we're doing an interview for the Windsor Historical Society. And Ted lives at 330 9th Street in Windsor, Colorado. And Ted, what is your full name? Is it Theodore?
Theodore Harland Starck. Well, I was named after my dad. Where the middle name come from, I don't know.
Okay.
I was born in Berthoud, and we moved here when I was about a month, 2 months old, somewhere in there.
Okay.
We moved here in December of 1938. I was born in a house over there.
In a house.
Yeah,
okay.
My folks showed me a long time ago.
Yeah.
My dad was a blacksmith.
Yeah.
He had a blacksmith shop in Berthoud, and he turned that over to his brothers and started one here in Windsor. Yeah, I got a board up there with brands that he made.
Okay.
And he always put them on the door. And when they tore the door apart, I got some of the boards. In 1955, my dad sold out and went into construction. And the guy that taught him blacksmithing also taught him how to build a house. So I joined the Navy when I was fairly young.
Okay.
And when I got out, I worked one campaign out here at the sugar factory. And then I went over to Montfort Pack, put in 13 years, and then Brother Ed and I started Starck Contracting. We built a few houses, and then we went into the post-frame type buildings. Well, I had 5 brothers. Kenneth was the oldest, Howard, and then there was me, and Bill, Ed, and Bob. And Howard is gone. He's the only one that's
passed.
The rest are here.
So how about your children? Kirks,
Rhonda, and Jackie, and I'm sure you know them.
I do know them. I do. Where did your family come from? Berthoud, before that they were from?
You know, I've got a book of the history of my grandparents.
We'll have to
when
get
they
a look
was
at
in
that.
Russia.
Okay.
And they moved, they migrated up to North Dakota, and then from North Dakota they went to Berthoud.
All right.
And they started out as farm laborers. And then my dad started a blacksmith shop over there, and they did a lot of that stuff over there.
Do you know how to blacksmith?
Not really. I know some of the things. I know you can weld iron in a forge.
Well, we also have here the present fire chief of Windsor.
Yeah.
And he has some questions for you because
Sure.
I know your family is very involved in the volunteer and starting the Windsor Fire Department, so he'll ask you some questions about that.
Certainly. Tell us a little bit about how your family got involved in the fire service.
You know, my dad started in 1940, somewhere along in there. Maybe it was 39. And he was in there 35 years, I believe. But as kids, we was always, in those days, they'd let us ride the fire truck.
When there was a fire call?
And we used to go out to the fires, and I mean, we didn't do much, and then Bill joined the fire department while I was in the service. And when I got out of the service, I joined the fire department, along with Jerry Snyder. He joined about that time. You know, we got some history somewhere, I think it was in the paper, with all of the Starcks. At that time we had over 100 years service in the Windsor Fire Department.
So your dad was 1939, 1940 for about 35 years, so going from 1940 to 1975 had to be a pretty amazing evolution in the fire service. So when did you start?
I think it was 63, 62 maybe.
62.
Right in there.
And you, so
I had 27 years.
27 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about just the interest. How do you think your dad got started in the fire service? Or?
He just volunteered. I mean, they got guys together. And then, the fire department split up in the 50s, I think.
Okay.
And then they started the rural district. Used to be the old 41 International. They could not leave Windsor because there was no fire district. It was just the town of Windsor. And then 51, they bought the Ford truck and they formed the fire district. Yeah.
Were you part of that restoration of the REO? Were you part of the group that
Yeah.
helped with that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I got to drive it.
Me too.
Yeah. Jerry Ward found, well, he got some information on it and they went down and got it. And Brother Bob, he went down with him. And we brought it back and we started raising money for restoration. And we took it out by Mike Wiley. And I think he did a pretty good job on it.
Yeah.
And then there was some gal down in Denver that did pinstriping and gold leaf on it.
So one of the things that I think people don't realize is that Windsor had the volunteer fire department. And that what that meant is, you know, when the fire whistle went off, how did you know to go on a fire call? I mean, I know we'd sit in church and if the fire whistle went off, half the Starcks would leave, you know, the half the church
before
would
they
leave.
had the pagers, they would either call the telephone office and they had the siren would go off, call the telephone office, find out where the fire was, and they would respond and go to it. So that was the way they used to. And then they got the pagers, and the pagers would go off.
So tell us a little bit about some of the fire calls you went on that are more memorable in your time.
Well, I remember when the Windsor Mercantile burned down, and I was just a kid then. I don't know if you ever heard about that or not. Back behind Manwaller's, there was a storage unit. Did you ever hear about it?
No.
And I think there's some pictures of that thing around. But it burned completely to the ground. And that old International burned its engine up that night. Lord. And there was a cribbed elevator, like the old one that burned down.
Uh-huh.
That was part of that.
Right by the railroad tracks.
Right next
for
to the railroad
deliveries.
tracks. Mm-hmm.
For deliveries.
And the old man Fry, he pretty well run that. In fact, he only had his own banker's cage in what was a mercantile then.
Okay.
You know, where the antique store is or whatever that was a Windsor Mercantile. I remember they held the Monarch Foods. You ever hear that, Brian?
Mm-mm.
I got a can in there with the emblem on it.
We'll have to go on show and tell.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big fires. What else? What are kind of major things?
We used to have a lot of haystack fires, and they were a bear or not. And I remember junior high burned down,
Yeah.
and I was on a credit union board. We was having a meeting at the Starlight Cafe, and the siren went off, and we went down there. And the problem was we didn't have no long ladders to get to the roof, and the building had a double ceiling in it, and the fire got up in there. What happened is what we believe is somebody threw oily rags in a little closet, and it started and went straight up like a chimney into that attic. So the roof burned off of it.
And that was 1964, May 17th, 1964.
Yeah, somewhere
right
in
around.
there. And then I remember, well, there was an elevator we called out on as backup over to.
There was one of those that lasted like 30 days or something like that. I think we heard a story about
Yeah.
something like that. And you said,
Yeah,
Dave,
old
what's that
Don
one?
Abbott, you know, he was quite a character. And we had smoke up in a little house on the building next door. And him and I crawled up there and we put that thing out. And you could see it was just starting to smolder. And I can't remember if it was the fire extinguisher or what we took up there, but we did get it out.
And you did that as volunteers.
Even the fire chief was non-paid until around Jerry Snyder's time. And it was $50 a month. As, you know.
Well, we need to ask you about your childhood too. There's some questions they want me to cover. So can we back up to when you were a little whippersnapper?
Yeah. The very first thing that I can remember in my life is my cousin and I started a fire between two sheds. Oh, we got our butts paddled
Yeah.
for that. But, you know, as kids growing up, all the kids played under the streetlights at night. Kick the can and, you know, tag and just games that we made up. But after TV come in, that all went away. People sat at home and watched TV. Where Water Valley is now, that used to be our playground. The Great Western Sugar Farms.
Uh-huh.
That was, and then Kodak bought it. And we used to go down to the river and we had a favorite swimming hole.
So what was it like having all 5 brothers?
You know, we used to fight and argue, but we usually got along pretty good. I threw a rock at my brother Howard one time and hit him in the head.
Ooh.
And he was bleeding. It wasn't bad,
Yeah.
you know, it was just a rock.
So where was the house that you grew up in Windsor?
You know where, what is it, First Street and Locust. There was a mulberry tree in there. And the kids would even come climb that tree, and those things, you touch them and they stain you.
Stain your clothes and...
Yeah, so, and, you know, there was a gang of us kids, we played down there all the time. As we got older, and we used to go back to the lake and we'd go swimming back there.
in the lake.
Yeah.
Did you have a chicken coop and
Yeah, we always had chickens.
always had
Yeah.
chickens?
Yeah.
So, what kind of
Who's that?
clothing did you wear? Did your mom sew it all for you boys, or did you go to the mercantile?
Well, she'd patch our clothes and darn our socks. And we were so embarrassed to wear patches on our knees. Nowadays, well, look at her pants. See, you know,
That's the style.
and we used to play marbles, you know, it was always on the dirt on our knees.
Yeah, she'd wear them
Yeah.
out.
Wear 'em out, yeah.
So how was Main Street as we know it today? What
You know-
would that look like?
Everything was dirt except the 2 blocks of between 4th and 6th, and that was concrete. One of the first streets that was paved with concrete in Colorado. When I was a kid, there was an old man by the name of Al Horn, owned those buildings right there, the very first ones. And I remember he smoked a pipe, he was a real old guy. John Bruner and Company had the Moline deal, where the Bristow is now. There was a wooden building, Caston tore it down. Windsor Mercantile. Then there was the Fraser Drug, and Windsor Hardware was after that. And there was a post office.
On Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
So, why were there so many blacksmith shops, do you think?
Well, there was blacksmith shops, and that was where they repaired and built stuff and shoot horses. I remember I was out there one time and the guy had a team of horses he was going to hook up to a piece of equipment, and there was a bridge across the number 2 ditch right there in the yard, and he was bringing them horses across. So I remember a little bit about the horses. You know.
Yeah. So did you have chores at home that you had to do, or
Yeah, we had to do dishes.
dishes?
Oh yeah.
No, okay.
Boy, there was no girls in the family. And well, it depended on how it worked out, but one would wash and the other would dry with the tea towel. And then we would switch, you know. And we used to race see who could get done the quickest, you know.
So what kind of entertainment did you have?
You know, every year we had a family picnic. And that was my grandpa. We would go usually up on the St. Vrain, one of the parks up there, or we'd go to Loveland Waterworks.
So what kind of newspapers were in town back then, or how
Windsor
did-
Beacon.
The Windsor Beacon
Yeah.
wasn't that okay? The Poudre, okay,
And
Windsor,
it was called the Poudre Valley.
Poudre Valley.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know the guy that's used to run that. It was before my time, and then Blair Macy had it when I was growing up. And it was a pretty neat newspaper. He always had that section behind the 8 ball,
Okay.
and he'd always start some controversy, you know. He was a good newspaper.
Good
man.
newspaper.
Yeah.
And those came out on Thursday, didn't they? Thursday morning.
Thursdays, yeah.
And so everybody'd be
Yeah.
lined up at the post office. So what would you say is the biggest changes you have seen in Windsor?
Population.
Population?
Houses. You know, when I built this house, it was on the edge of town. There was nothing back here. Cornfield.
Okay.
Wayne Miller owned this property, all of it. And well, Harold Weinmeister always used to keep his horse here.
So, how did you get to school? Did you go to park school or?
Well, I started at park school,
Yeah.
and we lived down on Oak Street when I started going to school, and we walked.
Walked
And then 7th grade, we had to walk all the way up here, and
to the junior high on
to the junior high.
on 9th Street.
That was a pretty good walk, you know.
What do you remember about any of the teachers or school activities in the junior high before it burnt down? That's kind of intrigues a lot of the students that go
Yeah.
there.
My first teacher, her name was Miss Matthews, and most of them lived up here in the Teach-Reach.
On Walnut there.
Yeah, Mrs. Matthews and her. Oh, I couldn't stand that one. And I was just a little. Oh, she was mean to me. She was.
Wow.
You know, I never went through high school, and when I got in the service, I went and got my GED. I flunked the 5th grade because I had pneumonia. I was missed most of that, so I was a year behind all the time. So there used to be quite a few kids that drop out of school.
Yeah.
That's a mistake. It is.
Yeah. Okay.
What's your best memory of Windsor? It's
Yes.
all-time favorite memory.
All-time
One
favorite
thing.
memory.
I would say Labor Days. They were some of the best times. And you know, when it was in the fire department, we always had potlucks. And Don Abbott's wife would always make, in March I think it was always, we had chili and oyster stew. She made the best oyster stew. And that's some of the, probably the best times, you know.
How many dogs have you had in your life?
You know, when we was kids, we always had a dog. But Kathy and I, this is our second one.